How do you eat dessert and burn fat at the same time? I tell you what, I would love to know this because I have a sweet tooth. I like eating Cornetto ice creams. I like eating King Cones from the Chevron gas station down the road from me on Boulevard. I like going down to the Bristol Farms supermarket and picking up a packet of chips on occasion.
Hey,
it's my Achilles heel sometimes, I got to tell you. Desserts. I love eating desserts. And today we're going to talk to an expert in desserts. He's actually a health coach, a chef, and a model. And we're going to come up with 3 ways for you to eat dessert and burn fat at the same time. It's a big welcome to Crosby Tailor. How are you, Crosby?
Good. Hey, James, how you doing?
Mate, it's great to have you here. You and I ran into one another. Well, we actually met at the Bulletproof conference, Dave Asprey's Bulletproof conference in Pasadena last year, and then we ran into one another at the Equinox Gym on Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood last week, didn't we?
Yeah, everything happens for a reason. It's really cool to meet somebody and then have it kind of come back together in kind of full form. And both of us are doing very, very similar things in the health field, so it's just synchronistic.
Now, like I said in my intro there, I love to eat dessert. Like, I love it. And I've gone and done healthy desserts before. I've eaten, I've done coconut cream-based ice creams in my blender.
Yes.
Of coconut milk, and I've added some cacao powder. I've added a little bit of fruit, and I've added, some vanilla extract and things like that. But then I've put some ice in and blended it, but it wasn't quite the ice cream flavor. And then I actually bought an ice cream making machine, but it was too laborious and it didn't really quite work out. And I don't really want to sit at home and cook and bake cookies and healthy cookies. I'm a guy on the run, right? Like, I don't
Right.
Before we get into your healthy desserts, is there a way that we can do this quickly and efficiently without having to go like, oh, this is a pain in the ass. I've got to use a blender. I got to bake. I got to turn the oven. I got to learn how to be a chef and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple simple different ways that you can create something that's going to satisfy the sweet tooth. One being just like you said before, some of these powders that a lot of these superfood powders that us health nerds have at home. You can throw a couple of them into kind of almost like a coffee cup, like a circular round coffee cup. And if you take the right powders, like you're saying, a cacao powder, the right sweetener, I really like Lakanto. I use a lot of Lakanto in my stuff, which is a blend of monk fruit and erythritol. And you flavor it right with a pinch, a little pinch of pink salt, and you got some stuff like MCT oil and ghee and these kind of things for the fats. And if you can stir up something in a cup that will taste kind of like this, kind of like chocolate fudge, that's a really, really quick and easy way to satisfy a sweet tooth. And when you're somebody that has those kind of things at home, it's just boom, boom, boom. You just throw them all together, and there you go. You're on the couch scooping up a little chocolate dessert, reading your favorite book.
Well, good. That's encouraging then, because I always find myself, late at night, I've got a bit of all of a sudden I want a dessert and I got nothing in the house. I got a bunch of supplements. I'm okay during the day because I've got kale, I got spinach, I've got some supplements. I got some pretty healthy things there, but not enough to satisfy my sweet tooth. And so on occasion, I'll leave the apartment and I'll walk down the road and I'll grab something. So that's good. That's encouraging that there's an easy way to do this, because I'm inherently a lazy bastard.
Aren't we all? I feel like I want to cook all the time, like lunch and dinner. I want to cook, and I get done with the gym, and instead of coming home, I'm like, well, I can just go straight to Air One and get a plate. That's going to be something I would make at home in the first place. And then I'm like, oh, let's cook at night. And then I'm like, well, I could just go somewhere like this. I mean, LA has so many different health spots that I can be just as lazy. But when it comes to desserts, I really, nowadays, I really don't trust a lot of different places. I really don't trust a lot of people, and I make my own desserts. And
yeah. And you just referenced Air One there. Air One is actually probably, it's considered one of the healthiest shopping stores in Los Angeles. It's right near the Grove in Los Angeles. It's kind of off Beverly Boulevard. I was actually just there on Monday night. I went and saw a movie at the Grove, and then I walked to Air One, not with anything with any buying thought in mind. I just wanted to go and check it out and be amongst all the healthy stuff. And I ran into someone I knew there. It's like so funny. It's like more of a social scene than it is a shopping scene.
It's crazy. Yeah, it is. It is the social scene for healthy people. I feel like people walk in there. I mean, I can't get out of there without talking to at least 4 or 5 people. So
there you go. If you're also looking to date, you're also looking for a romantic partner, just go to a healthy food store in your local city and your
Whole Foods, Air One, even Trader Joe's.
Yeah. All right, let's get into this. Okay, so we're talking about how to eat dessert and burn fat. We're talking to Crosby Tailor, who is a health coach, chef, and a model. You can find him on Snapchat and all the other social medias at Crosby Tailor, Crosby Tailor, Tailor, and his website, which is Eat Dessert, Burn Fat. So let's go over a few after dinner desserts. I think we're going to talk about cookies, ice cream, and chocolate. So let's do cookies first, shall we, Taylor? Crosby, rather. Sorry, I'm calling you by your surname there.
That's okay.
It's a very Australian thing to do. It's an Australian thing. We call people by their last names, like, "Hey, Swanwick, over here."
Yeah. Well, Crosby. Everybody doesn't think that's my first name because that's usually a last name. So I get that a lot. People call me Taylor. But yeah, cookies. So the cookies I came up with kind of on a whim. I was making a lot of different smoothies and healthy ice creams and stuff like that. But I started baking with the idea that maybe I can throw a lot of these similar powders that I was making in a smoothie into a mix and, throw some eggs and some stuff to bake with and put together some kind of baked good. And it took me a little bit. I mean, I had like 3 or 4 tries and I got to a place where I was like, okay, I'm really satisfied with this kind of baked good. And what happened was I eventually turned it into what now I'm working on as a baking mix. And the baking mix is pretty much done. And now I'm going to work on packaging it and branding it and everything so that everybody at home could make pretty much every baked good recipe that I have off of this one kind of like my base vanilla mix. And I'm using only Lecanto, like I said before. It's my main sweetener. It's a blend of monk fruit and erythritol. Erythritol that has actually been shown to not cause any stomach issues, unlike its counterpart xylitol, which is another sugar alcohol that I noticed I was using for a while, and I actually had to stop using it because my stomach, I was getting all these different stomach issues, and I was like, maybe it's the xylitol. So I switched over to this, and it's just been amazing. So this is my main sweetener for everything. So
it's called erythritol, and you spell that ERYTHRITOL. Yeah, erythritol. And so erythritol is a sweetener, correct? Mm-hmm. It's like sugar, but without the calories. Is that the best way of explaining it?
Yeah, it's 0 glycemic, 0 calories, 0 sugar. And the amazing part about erythritol is it doesn't go through a wild fermentation, which can create fermentation in the gut. They do a special fermentation process and basically have come down to, they've scientifically proven that it does not cause any stomach discomfort, and it does not digest in a way to where your insulin will spike. So it's the best of both worlds. So the people out there that are freaked out about candida can use it, as well as people that are diabetic and that have sugar intolerance. It's really, really amazing. And it still tastes so sweet. It tastes delicious. You can put it really with anything. It's still going to give you curb that sweet tooth that you're missing when, it's sweeter than honey, than maple syrup, than all these other things, coconut nectar that people are using as sugar substitutes that still do spike blood sugar.
And how do you buy erythritol? Does it come in a package, a powder, or is it like what does it look like?
Erythritol, there's only a couple places in LA that are selling it off the shelves, but you can get it online. It's lecanto.com.
How do you spell Lecanto?
Lakanto.
Okay, and lecanto.com is what exactly? That's a place that's a brand of erythritol?
That's the brand of erythritol. They sell like some chocolate bars on there as well, and they sell it's the blend. It's the monk fruit and erythritol. And so the blend they sell as a regular white sugar type product as well as a brown sugar.
And can people get this anywhere? Like if someone's listening to this, they're not in a health conscious city like LA, maybe they're, I don't know, whatever. They're in Alabama or they're
it's on Amazon. You can get it straight from their website.
Okay, so you can actually just type in erythritol on Amazon, or you can go to leconto.com. But it's true that only few supermarket chains across the US actually carry it on their shelves?
Right. It's not. It's been around for a little bit, but it just wasn't one of those sweeteners that became as popular as like something like a xylitol or some of these other sugars that are on the shelves.
So erythritol, and it comes in in what kind of form? Did you say powder or?
They're coming out with the powdered version, but it's a granulated version right now. But I have the beginning powder because they're working with me right now. So the powder is a lot better because when you stir it into something as opposed to blending it with something, you don't get that like granulated weird. Like I only have sugar bites every once in a while. It's more of it's blended through and consistent within the dessert.
Okay, cool. So we're talking about making cookies here. So we've got we've got erythritol. Yep.
Yeah. So in terms of the baking mix, I'm not going to give you all of my secrets because it's going to come into a proprietary blend. But let's just say it's packed full of protein. It's got certain resistant starches like tiger nut flour. I use tiger nut flour in some of my baked goods. Coconut flour, which is an amazing substitute for something that normal people would be using, whether it's a white flour or a wheat flour. Coconut flour, it's got some MCTs, and it's packed full of fiber. And then there's certain proteins that are very, very, very digestible proteins. So this is also a protein packed, a fiber packed, it's a protein packed, and it's a good fats packed cookie. Very low carbohydrate, zero sugar. So in the end of the day, whether I'm making, creating my own chocolate, cutting it up into chunks, and the chocolate's full of like MCT oil to give you that thermogenic effect, that cognitive boosting effect, and cutting that up into chunks after it's frozen, throwing it into my batter and making chocolate chunk cookies, or putting a little pumpkin puree and some pumpkin spice and some cinnamon and making some pumpkin spice bundt cakes, to throwing a little lemon poppy seed in there and making lemon poppy seed cookies or a lemon poppy seed bread. There's so many different variations that you can create from this one mix. And so that's why I wanted it to be like this, so that people can look at all the recipes that I've created and be empowered at home to go, I'm going to make this cookie tonight. I want to make this brownie this night. And it's just ongoing kind of thing. And they could be feeding these things to their kids on a nightly basis.
So let's just say we'll give them the link to your vanilla baking mix towards the end of the show. But for now, let's just say they're not going to use your mix. They want to make a home-based cookie. Like, what are we putting in there? We've got erythritol, obviously, but let's just list the foods and how we make a cookie, whether we use your product or we don't.
Right. So you're gonna need a flour base. There's all different types of flour bases you can use, from coconut flour to, if you wanted to have some kind of carbohydrate base in there, some quinoa flour. If you want to stay away from gluten, and if you're trying to stay away from grains, you can use everything from different nut flours, like coconut flour to almond flour to a specific product that just came upon the market, tiger nut flour, which is a resistant starch. It's full of prebiotics that will feed your good bacteria. So you're getting some health benefits out of it when you do something like that. I made a ginger snap, like kind of molasses ginger snap cookie the other day with tiger nut flour, and it was amazing. And so you're obviously going to need some eggs.
Okay. Yeah. So coconut. So we're using some kind of flour, whether it's coconut, almond, or tiger nut. Eggs. How many eggs do we need?
Depending upon the batch, we're looking at anywhere from 2 eggs, 4 eggs. I mean, it really just depends on and how big of a batch you're making. I really like to use ghee, as opposed to butter. Some people are, sensitive to lactose, and so ghee is a lactose, casein, and salt-free product that has like a very, very rich flavor. Ancient Organic sells a really, really amazing tasting ghee that I use for pretty much all of my baking. And in terms of getting it to rise, some kind of baking powder, like an aluminum-free baking powder, is a really, really great addition to getting that cookie consistency.
When you say aluminum-free baking powder, does that suggest that some baking powder has aluminum in it?
Yeah, there's Bob's Red Mill sells an aluminum-free baking powder. So I would assume that you're going to get out of the normal baking powders, you're going to get some kind of aluminum.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
Okay.
But I never really realized that either until I found that Bob's Red Mill one. And I was like, oh, I guess this would be a better option.
Okay. So that's coconut flour, eggs, ghee, and aluminum-free baking powder. Anything else we need?
Yeah, you're going to want to, have some kind of flavor profile in there. So obviously we have the sugar and you can add stevia if you'd like for certain different flavors. I mean, there's like English toffee stevia, there's butterscotch stevia, there's different things that you can throw in there. As well as, if you're a chocolate person, you want to make some brownies, it would be really great to throw some cacao powder and some cacao butter in there and stir that up. And you can create a nice, rich kind of brownie texture out of, or kind of like a pure chocolate cookie out of something like that.
So is that including stevia and erythritol?
It just depends on the flavor profile and how big of a sweet tooth the person has. But if you kind of have a nice touch with erythritol and with the Lecanto and the stevia together, you can create a really, really nice cookie.
So you can put all of that in, erythritol and stevia.
Sure.
Can you put stevia in without the erythritol?
Yeah, you can put stevia in without erythritol, but it's just the balance of flavor. A lot of people are sensitive to stevia, so when it comes to the metallic, some people have like a metallic aftertaste when they have stevia. So when you have the more of the really, really tastes like sugar type product like Lecanto, it takes that away. Pink salt is actually a really nice addition when you're using stevia as well. Whenever I make any kind of dessert, I always will create something that I always throw the pink salt in there to curb any kind of like weird aftertaste of the stevia.
Okay. So just on the ingredients then, we're looking at some kind of flour, whether it be coconut, almond, or tiger nut. We're looking at eggs, preferably pasture-raised eggs. We're looking at ghee, GHEE. We're looking at some aluminum-free baking powder, which you can get. There's a brand called Bob's Red Mill. Erythritol and or stevia and or pink salt, and then some cacao powder. Is that right?
Cacao powder is an additive, as well as, going back to some of the flours when it comes to people that want to be completely nut-free as well. You can grind up some flaxseed and have some ground flaxseed as your main base. The cinnamon rolls, some of the cinnamon rolls that I make, I do that with. I just ground up some golden flaxseed, and that's my base for a cinnamon roll.
Okay, so the ground brown flaxseed is an alternative to the flour?
Yeah, or an addition. You can mix and match these things. You kind of really have to play with it at home to get the consistency and the texture that you want, because obviously if you're using all coconut flour, they're going to be really, really dense and a little dry. But if you can combine some of these flours together, you're going to get a product that is way more satisfying.
Okay, so we've got the ingredients, and now I'm starting to get a little bit concerned because you told me that I wouldn't be doing much baking and I'd be doing like the lazy man's cooking. So what do I got to do now? Now I've got to like set aside 3 hours and put it in the oven, Crosby?
Yeah, I mean it's sounding really taxing at this point. And so my main suggestion is when Crosby's Cookies baking mix is out, you just get a baking mix, and now you got it all taken care of. All you got to do is add the wet ingredients, and you're looking at something that's gluten, sugar, grain, and dairy free as a cookie at home, a cookie alternative at home on a nightly basis.
And so what would you do then? Let's just say you've got your mix that you put all together. How do you then make that? Like how does it work?
So, adding the wet ingredients, then giving it a nice stir. You can set it in the fridge for a second so that it sets. And then I'm just greasing a pan with ghee, popping the oven on to about anywhere from 350 to 375, and ice cream scooping the mix right on in little cookie balls, and you throw it in there my mix is done in 8 to 9 minutes.
Okay, so you have to understand here, right? I don't cook this kind of stuff. So when you say put wet ingredients in, I'm not following you. So we've got your powder. What do we do? Like literally, what are the physical steps that I've got your powder or I've got these ingredients, what do I do?
So you're going to need ghee. Okay. You're going to need a certain amount of ghee. You're going to need a certain amount of eggs, and you're going to need a certain amount of liquid. I like to use like an unsweetened coconut milk.
Mm-hmm.
And then depending on the flavor profile, you can add, like for my butterscotch cookies, a half drop or a butterscotch stevia will give it that kind of flavor. If you wanted to create more of like a cinnamon cookie, all you need is a tablespoon of cinnamon. If you wanted to do any other variation, you can start, besides the recipes that I'm going to be throwing up on my website for people to be following along and creating these things, people can get creative themselves and come up with their own recipes, whether they like matcha. So you throw it in, a couple teaspoons of matcha powder, and you add a little bit of vanilla stevia, and you can start to create all these different types of cookies and breads and muffins. And it all can come from this one baking mix, which is for, the stay-at-home mom that's got a couple kids. I think it's a really, really healthy alternative to what else is out there on the market.
So are we mixing all of this stuff together in a bowl and putting it on a tray? What are we doing?
Yeah. So step by step, we got to get a big bowl. You got to mix that together in a consistent form to where it's nice and smooth. It's going to get kind of like sticky, like a cookie would get, and you can set it or you could place it right away. When it comes to muffins and breads and some of the tins that you'll be using for that, you can just put it right in. If you are going to be making a cookie consistency, it's better to set it in the fridge for like 10 to 15 minutes. And then, especially for chocolate chip, I like to set it in the fridge, let the batter get a little harder, and then cookie scoop those on to a pan. You'll get out of the mix, you'll get 16 to 18 cookies. You can put them all on one pan and pop it in the oven for 8 to 9 minutes. After you take the cookies out, you can set them back in the fridge, and I'll have recipes for people to create amazing little icings to put on top as well. So whether you want to make a butterscotch cookie and put a little butterscotch icing on top, or it's a pumpkin spice cookie with a cream cheese probiotic icing on top, I have all of these different recipes that will be that the user will be able to have from my website to mix and match all different types of things.
Okay. So there's cookies. And then how do we make sure we don't overeat? Because once the healthy cookies are there, I might eat 10 of them thinking that they're healthy, but then in actual fact, because I've eaten 10, I'm unhealthy. So how do you limit yourself to having...
Exactly. Well, everything in balance, everything in moderation. It is, because they are so delicious, I can understand somebody's like first time of wanting to eat all of them, but you'll notice after eating about 3 of them that because of the amount of fiber and the good fats and the protein, it's not like a high carbohydrate based cookie where you can eat tons of them and your metabolism is just rapidly speeding through them while you're eating them. You're going to get full. You're going to get satisfied. You're going to have 3 of them and be like, wow, I'm really full. And then at that point, it's kind of up to you whether you're going to stuff yourself and be laying on the couch for the rest of the night. But there are times when I've done it, and let's just say the next morning, there's enough fiber that you're going to be completely detoxed. And I've had times when I've gone through a dozen cookies and nothing's happened because I just eliminated the next day so well.
Okay. All right. So there's cookies. Let's move on to ice cream. Hi, this is James Swanwick with a Save the Date announcement. Our annual retreat is taking place on January 19, 20, and 21 of 2023 in the country of Colombia, just outside of Medellin, Colombia, in fact. If you have always wanted to visit Colombia or you fancy a January trip abroad, join us at our annual wellness weekend where we will have speakers, hiking, breathwork, and lots more. We did our annual retreat this year, 2022, in Austin, Texas. Texas. And 2 years ago, before the pandemic hit, we had it in Los Angeles, California. Now, in 2023, we're going international. So if you would like to join me, our top coach, Victoria English, and a whole host of Project 90 clients, past clients, and prospective clients, and you want to bring your family or your spouse, and you'd like to join us in Medellin, Colombia, January 19, 2021, then send me an email to james@alcoholfreelifestyle.com and just put in the subject line Colombia. By the way, you spell Colombia Colombia. Most Americans like to say Colombia, Columbia, but the correct spelling is Colombia, Colombia. So if you email me at james@alcoholfreelifestyle.com with the subject line Colombia, we will save your details, we will send you details and put you on the wait list. And in a couple of weeks from now, more details will be made available. Hope to see you just outside of Medellin, Colombia. Let's get back to today's episode. How do we get some healthy ice cream happening?
Well, you were saying you were like talking about ice cream maker and all the issues with that and how you can like throw things together in a smoothie. And you're like, well, it's not really the consistency. So the way that I make ice cream involves the Vitamix, which is an amazing way to create ice creams. And you do it with literally ice, powders, oils. And when you have a Vitamix and it has that like plunger, you can kind of pound it all together in a consistent form while it's blending to create this texture that I show all the time. My Snapchat, I do a lot of like Snapchat ice creams where I show like the process. So you'll see the texture and people are always writing me and being like, how did you get it to be exactly like an ice cream? Well, when you put these things together and some of these ingredients I'll let you know about, it just forms this exact texture that you would get if you went to the store and popped open a regular Dreyer's ice cream. So you want to start with a base of like a cup of ice, throw that in the Vitamix, and then you're going to be adding like a lot of your superfood powders, different things that are going to create your flavor. So everything from tocotrienols, which is a rice bran soluble powder.
How do you spell that? I've not heard of that before. What is that?
Tocotrienols. It's TOCO. TRIENNOLS. Tocotrienols. Okay.
And what are those things?
Tocotrienols are rice bran solubles that are loaded in vitamin E, and it comes in a powdered form. You can buy it, online. There's a bunch of different brands from Sun Potion to a couple other ones. I like to use the Sun Potion brand, but that's like a kind of a base bottom for a lot of the mixes because it kind of gives it some substance.
Okay.
And it also is great for the skin. It's loaded with vitamin E. And then depending on what kind of, whether you're vegetarian or vegan or you're working paleo or whatever it is, some kind of protein powder in there to give it a protein-based ice cream. So from a whey protein isolate that people can stomach well to like a grass-fed colostrum powder to both to a collagen powder to what I've been working on lately is because of just the rehabilitation of the gut and not throwing anything in there that creates any kind of issues. I really love this new bone broth protein that Dr. Axe has. And there is, there's a vanilla, there's a chocolate, and it's really, really crazy. Like it's a powdered version of bone broth, but it's loaded with protein, hyaluronic acid, glucosamine, chondroitin, everything that's great for your skin, bones, joints, tendons, as well as the gut lining, like rehabilitating the gut, which a lot of people have issues in the gut. And so now you're making at home an ice cream that's delicious, but you're adding, this bone broth protein, you're adding something like a collagen protein, which is just going to give you more aid for your ligaments and tendons, healthy skin, nourishing that, providing more collagen for the skin. And then the Lakanto, always the Lakanto in there. You can add some stevia as well to create different flavors. Lucuma, mesquite, some of these are superfoods that you can throw a tablespoon of some of these things in there, depending on what you're creating. Again, with the cacao powder. So you're kind of putting together in powder form different types of variations and flavors, and to kind of just give you one that I would do would be something like, a scoop of the bone broth protein, a couple tablespoons of collagen powder, 3 tablespoons of tocotrienols, a tablespoon of lucuma, a teaspoon of maca, a gelatinized maca, for hormone balance as well as the flavor. You can throw in a tablespoon of Lakanto. You can throw in kind of like a half dropper of vanilla or English toffee stevia and a couple tablespoons of cacao nibs.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you got your fat. So you want to throw in anything from MCT oil or a brain octane oil, bulletproof brain octane oil. So now you're revving up the engine of the ice cream and giving it some thermogenic capabilities, as well as a grass-fed ghee to give it some CLAs. Or you could throw in an egg yolk and get your fats from an egg yolk or a duck egg yolk, which I've been using lately. Or just throwing, if you're a vegetarian, just throwing in a big scoop of almond butter. So now you have, you can do a plant protein instead of a bone broth protein and throw in some almond butter, and you're creating more of a plant-based ice cream. A little bit of ice on top, and you pound it up, and it creates this consistency that's just an amazing ice cream experience.
Yeah, it's when you were talking about the protein powder, I have grass-fed whey, what the brand is, and it's chocolate flavored. So what I could do then is put 1 cup of ice in my blender, put in that protein powder, and then maybe add a little bit of erythritol or something just natural to sweeten it, and even that would be something better. Even that on itself, while might be a little bland because obviously you mentioned a lot of ingredients there, it would still be enough presumably to satisfy my sweet tooth, and it would be healthy. So it would help suppress my sugar cravings late at night. It would create the texture of ice cream. So I would be thinking, oh, okay, I've got this nice tasting thing, and it's super healthy.
Yeah. There's different variations. There's different steps and obviously different budgets for these types of ice creams. And so, like you're saying, you could do something as simple as that to something as extravagant as some of the things that I'll throw together. I mean, you can even at the end of that, mix up that chocolate sauce that you had and drizzle it all on top. And if there's some cacao butter in that chocolate sauce, it's going to harden. And now you have like a hard shell chocolate on top.
Yeah. So when I have tried to make ice cream in my Vitamix before, it ends up being too icy. Like there's some parts of the ice which don't crush down. So I've gone through phases where I've put too much ice in and it's just too clunky, and then I've gone through a phase where I haven't put enough ice in and it's too liquidy. And I haven't quite found that right texture in between. What's your secret tip to getting that texture?
Definitely less ice, more substance when it comes to the powder and the fat.
Okay.
So, and the fat's very important too. So if you're only using like powders and ice, then it would serve you to throw in like the MCT or the ghee or even coconut oil or almond butter, cashew butter, some of these things that vegetarians would want to use.
Yeah.
Even if you wanted to create like a cool, if you wanted to superfood it up, you can throw together some of these different greens powders. I really love Premier Research Labs greens powder. You throw a little of that with some cacao nibs and a little bit of a mint extract, and you can create the color of like a mint chocolate chip ice cream as well as the flavor.
Yeah. I grow mint actually. I have in my little front balcony, I have been growing some sweet peppers and some mint. So I could just go out there and grab a few mint leaves and throw that in.
That would be cool. That'd be really awesome. Yeah.
Now you mentioned Vitamix. I actually bought a Vitamix about 18 months ago. It was the greatest investment that I've made in my dietary habits, I guess.
Right.
But I tell you, I ummed and ahed about it for 6 months because it was like $400. I mean, it can be as much as $500 to get this.
Right.
And I think it was only the reason that I got it for $400 was because I had a $100 off voucher, I think.
Okay.
If I recall correctly. And it's expensive. I mean, depending on, what your budget is, but like I think $400 to $500 for a machine that just blends foods together is a lot, right? So
expensive product.
For someone who's listening or watching who's on a budget and doesn't want or is unable to invest, a few $100, $400, $500 on a blender, what's the alternative?
Well, obviously the other ways to make ice cream when somebody's looking at, I want to start making ice cream. They're going to also look for online, like an ice cream maker, which is just as expensive. And I think it's harder to create
It's
something
harder.
like it's harder.
I bought one, and you got to freeze the container, and then you got to like put it in with the contraption, and then you got to like turn it on, and then you've got to check on it and stir. I mean, it's a process.
It's a whole deal. It's just something that I do not want to spend time on.
No.
And then, when it comes to just having a different regular blenders at home, from even something like the Bullet, it would really be all about, for these kind of people, I really don't think they're going to get the exact consistency that they're looking for. That would be like the Vitamix would do, but you can get something close. You just have to use more ice, less liquid, and kind of put it together, and just kind of like throw in a little bit more liquid, using fatty liquids too. So like a full fat, unsweetened coconut milk would be your best option for creating something that's going to be kind of like a dense smoothie more than an ice cream. The ice cream thing is, it's an investment. I think making ice cream is going to be an investment, because you really don't have a lot of alternatives unless you want to go to a health store and get something that's still going to be loaded with, if you're really watching your sugar, all the ice creams on the market are still bad, in my opinion, bad food combination.
It is. I mean, look, I've looked at all healthy stuff. There's this soy-free ice cream, which which is, I wouldn't say it's healthy, but I'd say it's not as bad for you. It's not good for you, but it's not as bad for you. And so I get that brand on occasion. So I'm always looking for dairy-free ice cream. And I'm always convincing myself that that's 100 times better than if I'm getting Ben and Jerry's or, Haagen-Dazs and all that kind of stuff, which it is, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're really going to take your health seriously and you want to eat ice cream and you want to do it at home, like you do have to invest in something. I mean, look, you can buy a $20 blender, but it's not really going to work for you and in crushing that ice and getting that ice cream texture.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this now or watching this and you really want to make homemade ice cream, maybe look for a secondhand Vitamix.
Totally. There's a lot of refurbished ones that are amazing. I think that's the one that I got. I got one with them like that. And now I'm actually affiliated, because of the stuff that I do with Vitamix. I'm actually affiliated with them now. And they send me coupon things all the time through my email for there has to be a way to get it. They're cheaper. Yeah, they've come down. I've gotten emails where they're down to like $3.49. So
yeah, it's still a little bit It's still a little bit expensive, isn't it? But look,
but they're really amazing customer service. And if you like, the warranty on the product is pretty much forever. I mean, if you
it is a lifetime warranty.
It's lifetime, right?
But I mean, look, if you still really don't want to spend that amount of money on a Vitamix, like even if you don't want to spend $100 on it, I would search and try and find a secondhand one. Like just go onto eBay or Craigslist or somewhere and just try and get. Like in my opinion, Vitamix it's a wonderful product. Like it's amazing. But I know, trust me, I know what I was going through 18 months ago when I was stressing over, am I really going to spend $400 on a blender? On a blender. And I'm glad I did, because I use it all the time.
Best investment for food ever.
But at the time, it's should I?
I know.
Mine is like,
I took that Bed Bath & Beyond coupon there like 4 times before I finally bought it. I was like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you're reminding me now. That's where I got it. In fact, my
20% off, right?
My friends Darren and Mary, who live in my apartment complex, actually gave me the coupon.
Yeah,
for the 20% off, which I guess was $100.
$100.
There you go.
It's
Thank you, Darren and Mary. You're always saving. I appreciate that. All right, so there's ice cream. I'll just go over the things again. You said, is it how am I pronouncing it?
Tocotrienols.
Tocotrienols powder, a protein-based like powder, like you might use if you were bodybuilding in the gym, or you can get ones that are like low calories. Obviously, I like to get grass-fed ones.
Yeah, make sure they're grass-fed.
Crosby's suggesting a bone broth based powder, which you can get, and then you can add stuff like cacao powder, erythritol, a tablespoon of maca, half drop of stevia, cacao nibs. For oils, you might want to put some MCT oil or brain octane oil in there, maybe some grass-fed ghee, eggs, maybe almond butter, coconut oil. You can put green powders, cacao nibs, mint extract. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can throw in there, as long as you got a good amount of ice and a good blender like a Vitamix. You don't have to put all of those things in. You can just experiment. Like I said, I've got a bit of mint outside. I could put some.
Yeah.
You can. I mean, what do you think about putting in frozen fruit? Because I always think, frozen fruit's fruit. It's good for you, but then I worry like, if I'm having this every night, I'm putting a lot of sugar in my system just an hour before I go to sleep. Is that storing fat around my waist?
I mean, fructose will do that, and a good amount of fructose on a daily basis all the time is going to eventually, create problems in your body where you're not as insulin sensitive, and you're not going to use that energy like you used to. And so you're going to store, and it would benefit you to not use it all the time. And instead, maybe even if you wanted to get that fruit flavor, there's all different types of different antioxidant powders too. Like if you wanted to do like an acai, if you wanted to do a mangosteen, if you wanted to do like a tart cherry, all these things are super beneficial antioxidants, tons of anthocyanins, or all of those capabilities. But obviously, like if you're going to create a fruit smoothie at home, look at all the low glycemic fruits. Blueberry would be a really, really awesome option if you wanted to make a blueberry ice cream. I've done that before. No issues. All the like low glycemic berries from goji berries is an amazing option as well. Anti-inflammatory. It's great for the skin and the eyes, and it's also loaded with antioxidants.
Okay.
So you can do the things that like I'm not really big on is like throwing like frozen bananas into it.
Yeah, or mangoes,
sugar, mangoes, just oranges, a lot of sugar.
Yeah, a lot of sugar. Yeah,
but obviously, if that person you can every once in a while, it's not going to kill you, especially when you metabolize. If you're a first type of person, or if you have the body type to metabolize carbohydrates well, you can get away with it. But if you're trying to lose weight and you're shorter and more compact, and you put on fat, well, you're not going to want to use a lot of high glycemic type fruits in your diet.
All right, so we've handled cookies, we've handled ice cream. Let's move on to the third one, which is chocolate. So how do we make some chocolate?
Chocolate. The chocolate. I'll have a couple recipes that are going to go up on the website soon. I've actually done some before, so I don't mind talking about the chocolate kind of to an exact form. Chocolates are really, really fun, really, really easy. You're going to need some type of, to begin with, some type of like, I like to use a nice rounded coffee cup, because you really don't need to use a lot of like powder and oil in this. You don't need like one of those when you use one of these big bowls for chocolate, it's hard to like stir it all in a very consistent form. People that are doing that in big batches, when you're making chocolate and you're selling chocolate, they do it like that. But just for yourself at home, something like an easy coffee cup, 4 tablespoons of cacao powder, 2 tablespoons of your Lakanto powder, a nice pinch of pink salt, and then, heat up some cacao butter. Throw some cacao butter on a pan on low, heat that cacao butter up, and you can throw a tablespoon of an MCT or brain octane into the chocolate it's about a tablespoon and a half, and then another tablespoon of cacao butter into the chocolate. Stir it all up. You're going to get like a nice consistent liquid chocolate, and throw that thing in the freezer. And that's the base easiest way to make a chocolate. When you take it out 25 minutes later, you can just get a knife and kind of like poke around the edges and it'll pop right out like a little circle. And you can cut up that into chunks, throw it in a cup and just eat little chocolate chunks. If you wanted to get creative, you can take that mix and there's these really cool like Sur La Table and a couple of these other KitchenAid places sell these like silicone ice molds. And I like to use these silicone ice molds, and I'll take the chocolate and I'll drizzle, about quarter of an inch to a half inch of chocolate in each bottom. And I'll stir up on the side. Maybe if you're into Reese's, you can stir up another cup with some almond butter, the Lakanto, and I mean, a little, even if you want to just be super simple, almond butter, Lakanto, a little pinch of pink salt, maybe a little bit of MCT, stir that up, and you pour that in as you've already hardened. You throw the chocolate in, let it harden a little bit, throw the almond butter on top of that, and then throw another layer of chocolate, and you're going to make these cool kind of like trifecta squares of little Reese's chocolates, which I think a lot of people would love.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a lot of that is using similar kind of ingredients as what we're using that you could be using for the ice cream. So you can actually get the same ingredients, create different, create ice cream or chocolate. You're talking about cacao powder, cacao butter, MCT or brain octane oil. That all sounds pretty good. I mean, if you're going to eat chocolate, I always say eat dark chocolate. Like if you're not going to make your own stuff at home, you can buy brands in decent enough supermarkets. And I always say 85% cacao plus. So the higher percentage of cacao in it, the healthier it is for you. The danger, well, maybe it is a little bit of a danger. The danger is when I buy that stuff, whenever it's kind of like that Pringles TV commercial, once you pop, you just can't stop. Yeah. It's like once I open that damn thing and I say, I'm only going to have 1 square or 2 squares of that, I end up eating the whole damn thing. And I look in the back and it's like the calories in that thing. There's a lot of calories in it, even though it's still very healthy for you. So how do we, is there some, I guess it goes back to my question before, how do we make sure that we're all excited about eating healthy and wow, now we're eating healthy desserts, but there's that danger that you can overeat thinking that you're healthy. So how do you rein in the chocolate eating, Crosby?
Well, I mean, I can rein it in pretty well just because I'm not the biggest chocolate. I make a lot of chocolate because people want it, but I'm not a huge chocolate fan to start. So for me, I can eat a square and be satisfied. But, when it comes to somebody that's like, I know I have a lot of clients that are just like chocolate fanatics, and they go through periods where they can't help themselves and they'll eat like 4 or 5 pieces. And now they're, it's rich. When you're dealing with these good fats, it's very, very rich. So the best way is to make sure that you're kind of following a nice balanced diet where you're getting a good amount of protein, fiber, greens, good fats on a regular basis, and you're kind of laying low on a lot of the sugary and starchy foods. You're going to create more of a, balanced approach to food after that. And you're going to have, you're not going to be like a crazy like sugar fanatic that's like, oh my God, I want to eat everything, because that's kind of how it is when you get close to food and your blood sugar is going like this all day long. It's really easy to overeat, right? But if you're in like a balanced state and you're taking care of yourself and you're clean eating and you're more so, I like to preach eating more like, 3 meals a day tops, 2 meals a day with like liquids in the morning, spreading out your meals and having more of like a little bit of like a bulk meal to satisfy. That way, you're not in like a very snacking approach to where when you get to something like dessert, you can go crazy. A lot of people will go or not eating all day long and your blood sugar is crazy. And then you get to that last part of the day when all you want is sweets and you just go crazy again. So it's really all about the person controlling your gut flora and your biome and your microflora to where you're not your body, you're in charge of your body, and your candida and certain pathogens aren't in charge of you. So at the end of the day, you're not going crazy on something, and your brain can switch off. I mean, it's a big leptin thing. The hormone leptin, when you can't stop yourself from eating, that's a leptin issue. And so you're going to have to look at that as well.
All right. So there you go. There's some how to eat dessert and burn fat at the same time from Crosby Tailor, health coach, chef, and model. You can find him on all social medias at Crosby Tailor. And check out his website, which is Eat Dessert Burn Fat. Remember, there's 2 S's in dessert. Don't be writing out Eat Desert Burn Fat.
Don't do that.
It's Eat Dessert Burn Fat. We talked about a lot of ingredients there, things like coconut flour, eggs, ghee, aluminum-free baking powder, erythritol, stevia, pink salt, cacao powder. We've got grass-fed whey protein, bone broth-based powder, curcuma, maca, cacao nibs, MCT oil, brain octane oil.
A lot of ingredients.
We've got mint, we've got acai powder, tart cherry, blueberries, goji berries. A lot of ingredients there. We'll put out some show notes here. So go to my website, jamesswanwick.com, and you can get a list of all the ingredients that we talked about today. My advice is, buy as many of those ingredients as you can in one go. Put them in your cupboard. Get yourself a blender. A Vitamix is best, even though it is quite costly. Make sure you've got ice on hand. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've wanted to make ice cream and then realize that I don't have enough ice in the damn freezer. So you've always got it. And then you go, oh shit, I got to walk down to like the Chevron gas station to get the ice.
That's exactly.
And then it's like, well, I'm going to carry this big bag of ice on my shoulder home, or I'm just going to buy the King Cone ice cream and be done with it.
That's the funniest thing ever. Yeah. I got a 7-Eleven that's like 2 blocks from my house. And I'm like, damn it, I got to walk. It's like 10 at night. And I'm like, I got to walk to 7-Eleven. I really want it that bad at that point. So you're like, let's just go on the walk.
Make sure you got ice. And if you want some, obviously if you're like me and you're lazy and you don't want to be baking cookies, Crosby's formula, his base vanilla baking mix will be coming out soon. Make sure you check that out at eatdessertburnfat.com and follow him on social media at CROSBYTAILOR. Go ahead and send him a tweet right now or follow him on Snapchat. Hi there, this is James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening to the show. I would be so grateful if you would leave a review. That will help us climb the rankings and get our show exposed to so many more people who could really benefit from the content. You can do that by going into Apple Podcasts, rating the show, writing a little 1-sentence summary, and posting it. That would be so amazing. Thank you. Likewise, if you would like to schedule a 15-minute exploratory call and apply for our Project 90 program, then you can do so by going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/project90. If you'd like to get the free guide, that is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide, you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Our YouTube channel is at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok at James Swanwick. Thank you so much for listening. We so appreciate you, and we'll catch you on the next one.